Yes.
Okay. We're live.
Episode 5.
If you're watching, we changed the table around.
I'm sure that's, yeah. We
Because
didn't.
I did. Because Joe Rogan faces his person while he's interviewing.
Yep.
So, there's got to be something there because he's...
That's got to be it. That's the trick. That's how he's figured it out.
That's how we figured it out. So, episode
Person
5.
pacing. Yep.
Today is Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
which is very exciting.
Why?
Because Tuesday, I roll the trash out on Tuesday evenings. Trash day is Wednesday. And there's something about the empty trash bin that makes me so happy.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I get excited about Tuesday evenings.
Great. And what's the other one?
Clean Sheet Friday.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
I'm such an adult. 34 is like... I've hit
so
complete adultness.
As we transition into normal day predictable things,
Yes.
let's talk about the ultra marathon.
Let's do it.
Because that's also typical and normal.
Let's talk about it. Moab 240.
Okay, start from the top.
Moab 240. What is Moab 240? We should probably say that first.
Okay. Well, how did you learn about Moab 240?
Okay, so 2020,
Mm-hmm.
I read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a little crazy.
A lotto.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started like following him on Instagram and then came across that he did a podcast with Joe Rogan,
Mm-hmm.
which we were listening to Joe Rogan randomly at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So listened to his podcast and they brought up, it was talked about in the book a little bit, Moab 240.
Yep.
And then I listened to a podcast where they talked about it more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I originally heard it from. And then I searched, I don't even know what I looked up, but I came across that he had interviewed the first place female.
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan did.
Uh-huh.
Of the Moab 240.
Yeah.
So I listened to that podcast.
Okay. So you heard it, you read it once
I
in
read
the
it
book.
in the book, yeah.
Okay, and then it came up again recently. That's like within the same bubble of time, right?
Month or so. Yeah.
Right, really close together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Up to this point,
Mhm.
what was our endurance background in 2020?
We had hiked the Grand Canyon
Mm-hmm.
once.
Yep. So a single pass,
Single pass across the canyon,
Yep.
which is like 24 miles.
single effort, I guess. That should be an asterisk to that. So straight across one time.
And we had not really trained, but completed a couple of marathons by like walking, rucking, shuffling.
Right. We had we had
two.
finished.
I think I had done two
marathons,
finished, yeah,
right.
but didn't really run them.
No, and very, very little training.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that was probably the extent of my
Okay.
Havasu Falls, I guess. Which wasn't that long in distance, but it
Right.
was
So
a
we had
hike.
done some kind of distancey things. We had done some long hikes, some tough hikes,
Yeah.
and we had done a couple long distance marathon effort
Yeah.
distances.
Yeah.
But nothing runny. So we're not like we're not regularly doing 5Ks, 10Ks, not running weekly, not running daily, none of that stuff.
No, I think no.
We'd probably do one day a week of some sort of intentional
Cardio.
walk,
Yeah.
ruck, shuffle maybe thing.
Yes.
Mainly just a bunch of walking and hiking, rucking.
We were
Rucking is just walking with weight.
We were not running
No.
at the time.
Okay. So then
2020.
so we see that.
Yeah, and I
And
think
we were on the radar because we had already done the canyon at least.
well, we had only done it one time at this
We'd done
point.
the canyon once.
And I kind of got into this. I want to do Moab. And January 1 was the sign-up date if you could get an entry.
Right, but
and Sean was like...
2020, we were kind of like, what else can we do?
Yes.
Like, what else is like something else that's harder than the canyon, bigger than a marathon? Like, what else is out there that we could like push ourselves and test ourselves?
Yeah. You kind of gave me like this like bubble of Okay. If we go and do Rim to River.
No.
Wasn't that the first?
No. No.
What did we do before then?
No, yeah, the canyon, but in the marathons, what I'm saying is like, we heard about Moab 240.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's do something like else. And we looked up Moab 240. We looked up the cutoff times, the distances, the days, tried to get a kind of idea about what it looked like to sign up. Sign up wasn't until January 1.
Yes.
For the Moab 240 of 21, which is held in October.
Yes.
So this is about October. So we're like 1 year out.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, well, maybe like we saw like cutoff times and we noted, well, this is really just a super intentional hike. Like to finish, to make the cutoff times.
Yeah.
You could pretty much just have a super intentional walk and make all the cutoff times and not get kicked off the course.
Yeah, as long as you hiked 60 miles a day, you can finish.
Right. And so we were like, well, that math shakes out.
Yes.
So cutoff times so there's just so many things different about the ultra world, right, that we'll kind of get into. But cutoff times basically mean that, in theory, we'll take some simple math. Let's just say that it's, the arbitrary numbers. It's 100 miles, and every 25 miles, in theory, you have to finish it in 5 hours.
Okay.
All right, so that would mean like the course cutoff would be 20 hours for, you know what I'm saying, like 20 miles every 4 hours. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't make the very first one, so if you don't make 20 miles in 4 hours,
you're done.
You're done.
Yeah.
You get kicked off the course.
Yes.
So those are what cutoff times are.
Yes.
Well, some races have really tight cutoff times. Some have bigger ones. Some have like progressive over. Like there's lots of variations in those cutoff times. But basically, on a big, huge course, it's not just stop start. It's not like going to like a 10K and it's just finish when you finish.
Right.
And marathons have most marathons have a like total course time.
Yeah.
Like the Oklahoma City Marathon has, you have to be off the course in 8 hours.
Yeah, because then they just take down the...
Yeah, but it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you can't get to the halfway mark at 13, they're going to kick you off in 4.
Right.
So that's something that's unique about ultras. So we look up those times. We'd never done an ultra before. We had no idea what a cutoff time was. We're researching and learning.
I'm gonna say I didn't research anything, but Sean did a lot of research.
I did a bunch of research, a bunch of learning.
Yep, you keep talking.
And I was like, all right, I think this is possible. And I was also thinking, well, we're a year out from now, so trainable. We could build a plan to get us to that ability, because we looked up the elevation of Moab 240 and we were like, technically, we finished the canyon faster than these cutoff times. So that was kind of our reference. We were like, well, if we can do the canyon in blank hours, and that's, I wouldn't say it's more difficult, but the distance that like the 24 miles in the canyon, the 24 miles at Moab 240 was a slower cutoff time.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, we could have done rim to rim slower and then on the same race pace as Moab 240. So that gave us a little bit of inkling of like, well, maybe there's something there that we could probably maybe we can make this happen. And you were like, let's do it. And I was like, well, we got to we had never done any ultra marathon distance, so we didn't know.
We hadn't done anything over the marathon. Yeah.
Right. We never done anything longer than 26. And we're like, well, we kind of need to know like where we're at as a baseline to build a training plan off of. Because if we're like, well, we can't even do 20 miles an hour or 30 or whatever it is, then the gap from 30 to 240 is huge.
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
You were confusing me with your 20 miles an hour.
20 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, keep going.
So then that's when we scheduled, that was this October, I think. And we were like, let's go to the canyon, do rim to falls to rim, which is 31 miles.
Yes.
So that would be that'd be technically a 50K. And that's kind of entry level for most ultra meaning longer than marathon courses, right? So that's like, if we can do a 50K self-supported, then that gives us enough breathing room, enough ability to train for 240.
Yep.
So we're like, all right, well, let's go test a 50K with minimal training and see where our baseline's at.
Yeah.
So we went to the canyon in December, Christmas.
We had 3 trainings up until that.
Yeah. So at that point, we had just been doing once a week something,
Yep.
hour, 90 minutes. And so
Yep.
we did 3 training runs. Now, we weren't even running. Kind of shuffling, Mount Scott, like hike, walk.
Yep.
And I think we did...
We did like a 9-mile, a 13-mile, and then like a 17-mile day.
Yeah.
And then went to the canyon
And then
to do 32 or whatever it was.
31-ish, whatever the math was, 32.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically like, well, let's get to 50% effort, and then if we can double that, 50, then that would be a really good idea. So we get to the canyon, we do the 50K underneath all those cutoff times. And it wasn't even like you had a bunch of knee problems.
I had terrible knee pain.
I was already having like plantar fasciitis things from that training.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of lessons that year about that.
Yeah, I like limped out of the canyon.
Yeah, like
miserable.
But
like
we
almost had a tear.
Yeah, and we were still well within cutoff times.
Yeah.
And we like enjoyed the canyon. Like we hung out at the waterfall, and like we did not have like a bad slow day at all.
No.
It was tough, but we're like, okay, we can do the canyon. This is a ultra distance canyon, down and across the bottom, back up the other side. Okay, yeah. If we can get now, the second part about Moab 240 is that it's a lottery system.
Yes.
So it's not just like you can just sign up and go.
Well, 2021 was actually, it was like first come, first serve. So it was
Right
before they started the lottery.
right.
So it was like...
You may or may not get in depending on the other people that are online registering. So there's a limited amount
How
of...
fast can you sign up?
Right. Limited amount of like tickets that they can...
Yes.
Or spots they can sell.
Yeah. And like if we can sign up at the exact same time to make sure
Right.
we were
So
both in.
Right. So we both needed to be on computers to get in at the same time because we weren't going to do it unless we both got in.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's January 1?
January 1.
Right?
Yeah.
Of 2021. We get on their website and we're waiting and it goes live.
Yeah.
And we say, heck yeah, click, and you go click, and then instantly it was like, congrats, you're in.
You got in.
And I was like, oh shit.
He literally
this
said,
sucks,
oh,
because now I know the math. Like, I know where we're at. I know the distance we have to cover. I know the hours we have to train.
Now training really starts.
Training starts.
I was so excited.
She was super pumped. Yeah, and we had no clue how to train. All we knew was the distance of the course, the elevation of the course, and the cutoff times. But we had never been out there. We didn't know what type of terrain it was going to be. We didn't really know what type of like variance in weather. We didn't know average speed of like, we knew the fastest times, but you didn't really know like the slowest times to finish.
Yeah.
And I think at that year there was already, the year prior had a 40% DNF, which is did not finish.
Yeah.
So 40% of the people don't even get to the finish line.
Yeah.
For a large portion. So
region,
now we're like, all right, we're in it. Like,
yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
So Moab 240 is 240 miles.
240 miles.
And how much elevation?
40.
It's like 8 or something.
46 or 40, something like that. 46,000 feet of gain. Yeah, it's
and
a
you
lot.
have 112 hours.
Yep,
to finish.
112 hours to finish the entire thing. And there's basically a cutoff every
it's like 15
to 19 miles, basically.
Yeah.
So it's 240 miles, and Moab specifically is 240 miles in one giant loop.
Yeah, it's a huge loop.
It goes out of Moab, goes through part of Canyonlands National Park, goes out way south of town, comes across, goes up the LaSalle's out of the other side of town, a big mountain range, and then comes back down into Moab.
Yes.
Huge. So it's a 240-mile loop.
Huge.
Right. We could see that on a piece of paper, but we didn't know anything else.
No.
Beyond that.
No, and I really didn't even understand what 240 miles meant.
No, it's pretty this doesn't make sense.
Really,
you're
no,
like,
it doesn't
oh wait, I just have to go across the canyon.
Right.
10 times.
Yes.
Basically,
Yeah.
that was kind of the math. and kind of the elevation, basically.
Which doesn't sound that terrible, I guess.
For those who've done the rim to rim, just imagine going across and then doing it 9 more times. And when you, after going to Moab 240 a couple times, the trail-wise, now there's not like one single bout that's like that crazy of a grade like the canyon.
Yeah.
But technically there's just as much total climbing as it would be for 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
10 full passes.
10 full passes.
Just spread out differently.
Yeah. So we start training. And we just thought we just got to start walking with packs. We walked everywhere.
All the time, cold, hot.
In the mall.
We're learning all sorts, learning shoes, learning socks, learning gear, learning equipment, learning trekking poles, learning. We would walk to the studio, teach classes, sessions, walk back home. Yeah.
All with pack on.
Yeah.
And Sean started dealing with
plantar fasciitis early, which made training super difficult.
Not fun
at all. Had to do a whole bunch of bike. Like I did hours and hours and hours and hours of bike.
Yeah, we would on Saturdays, we would go up to the studio and just put a movie on.
After teaching.
Yeah, and just 2 to 3 hours of just bike work.
Yeah. Just big, huge work. And so we basically tried to get in as much work as we could, as often as we could.
Yes.
Through the spring and summer.
Tried to rollerblade.
Yep. Rollerblade one time. Yeah. We knew that we were going to make the canyon, again, as part of our training for Moab.
Yeah, our biggest
day, because we'd done kind of done some research and some homework from listening to other people who have done it, and on a typical marathon, you want to get up to 75% distance. So most marathons, right, or all marathons are 26 miles. Typically, someone wants to get up to the ability to go 20 miles to do 26. Right, you don't go to 26 to do 26 because of recovery and a bunch of stuff. So but on ultra, they don't say that you need to get to 75%. They say you need to get to 50% because of stress and recovery.
Yeah.
And even then, the 50% gets a little weird. So if you're doing a 100-miler, you should be able to run 50 miles to do a 100-miler.
Yeah.
240, they're you should be able basically to do a 100-miler to do 240.
Yeah.
That's kind of a rule of thumb that we know now.
Yeah.
Well, we knew that we didn't have the ability to train up to 100 miles.
No.
And we're we'll plan on a 2-pass canyon 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Probably. I think it was about 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
So 6 weeks out. So this is Labor Day of 21.
Yes.
We go do a double pass at the canyon.
Rim to rim,
or R3, rim to rim to rim. Again, this is no sleep. This is straight across. So
we stepped off at 5 p.m. on a
5, yeah. So we did it first
Saturday night, and
it was just the two of us. We did a full solo pass in the night.
Yes.
Caught the group.
We had a group out there.
And then went across again with the group.
Yeah.
Shuffled run, made our times, made our timelines. We're cool. Yep, this is great. Didn't feel completely destroyed by it. Still dealing with some feet stuff. We still didn't have the best shoes. We're learning, still not using the stuff we really liked at that year. Yeah. Feet were already kind of beat up.
We had bags that were way too big.
Bags that were too big, too heavy, just a bunch of
we just didn't know. We didn't know anything about this sport.
No.
At all.
And so then we kind of tapered our training out from there.
Yeah. We
kind of maintained a little bit. So we had done, at that point, we were probably at 2, maybe 3 days a week of endurance training, and then 1 to 2, 3 strength training all year long.
Yeah.
Get to the course, Moab 240. So this is October of 21.
Yes.
Right? We were...
Side note, this is also when we were moving into our new studio.
Yes. We moved...
So in between...
Wait.
Yeah. We were we were moving, and the fact that we had gotten our keys to the new studio on September 15th.
Yeah.
And so we were in the process in between the canyon and Moab painting everything.
Right. So we were moving from our studio on 150th to our new studio now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had 45 days.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we had 45 days from the time they gave us the keys until the time that we would be paying rent.
Yeah.
So inside of those 45 days to get the studio ready was Moab 240.
Yep.
In the middle of it.
Yeah.
Nuts.
It was nuts.
Nuts.
It was also so much fun. I love stuff like that. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah. We also kept reading all these things about pacers and crew, and I'm like, I don't know what any of that stuff means. I have no idea what that means, but we definitely knew like we were going to need someone else out there to kind of hopefully assist us around. We didn't really know how that was going to work.
To make sure we were functioning.
And so months prior, we talked to Grandpa and Marilyn because they had spent many, many, many trips out to Moab. And we're like, we signed up for this ultra. Grandpa's super involved, likes doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, basically asked
if they wanted to come out and
they
just
wanted
like
to come support
crew and kind of come to some of the aid stations, which is a whole different story. But anyways,
right. So
they said yes.
They were like yes, which thank goodness.
They brought the camper and the puppies out.
Right. We flew to
Grand
Junction.
Stayed with Marilyn's sister.
Yep, and that was the day. Thursday?
The day before
Wednesday.
check-in.
The day before check-in. This is 48 hours before race start.
Yes.
And then we drive into Moab which is Grand Junction's maybe hour and a half or something, 2 hours away from Moab.
Yeah. This is how much we didn't know about Moab, though. So, like, we asked them to crew, which whatever that meant. We had no idea.
Yeah.
But I remember somebody at the studio, I was, like, teaching a session, and they were like, what kind of bathrooms are out there? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I wonder what kind of bathrooms are out there. I mean, had no idea what we were getting into.
No idea.
Not even kind of.
No clue at all. We didn't. You could read the like little descriptions, and they would say something like full aid station, or non-crew station, or crew station, or
sleep station.
And we're like, okay, all right. So
no idea.
You try to put a rough plan of like estimate of speed and time to kind of see where potentially you might track that out.
Yeah.
But we had no idea
where Grandpa and Marilyn like could meet us, or like expected time that we would be somewhere.
Nothing is simple.
No.
There's no service out there once you leave Moab.
No.
Like I'm talking like you leave the town of Moab.
There's nothing.
Like 4 minutes outside of town, there's no service forever. Middle of nothing. So you have to have everything pre-done. Like crewing, we'll get more later, but it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And it's a lot of logistics. That's a ton of driving because everything is like, it's huge. The course, the first aid station that's mile 70, there was our mile 70 hiking, walking, running, however you want to consider that. Mm-hmm. That was an hour and a half drive for them outside of Moab just to get to it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we fly into Grand Junction. We stay. We get up the next day. We drive into Moab to do check-in.
Yeah.
So you have to, like,
do
medical check-in for the race.
Yep. Big deal.
Medical check-in. Yeah, you get your bib number.
Yep, your GPS beacon. You get...
you have to like
pictures. You get.
Oh yeah, you get your picture. I don't think you get your GPS until
something.
Anyways, but you get stuff. Yeah. Whatever you do.
Talk to multiple people.
You get your free T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
But then like we go to medical, and they were like, "What's the longest distance you've done?"
Right.
And we were like, 50 miles in the Grand Canyon, and they were like. They basically laughed.
Yeah, because they asked us, where are you from? And we're like, Oklahoma. And they're like, longest distance? Like 50 miles in the canyon? And they're like, oh,
you're gonna die.
Okay, like, obviously we're in over our heads here.
Way over our heads.
But there was also kind of like, well, 50 miles in the canyon, like that, in that world, that's easy language.
Yes.
Everyone there is like, we understand what that means.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, you've got some sort of ability.
Yes.
And they're like, is this your first ultra experience? And we're like,
Yeah.
basically outside of supported 50 miles, like, we've never done anything close to this. And you could tell they were like, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big deal.
So we were freaking out.
No clue.
We had no clue. We had so much randomness and didn't know what to bring. We packed way too much in our bag. So when you sign up for the course, kind of packed too much.
Yeah.
You can like, they have like these stations. Oh, there's so much. So at each aid station, there's a possibility that you can leave a drop bag. So we had a couple of bags packed where it's like you label them. Okay, we want this bag to be at mile 71, and that might contain layers or extra food or different shoes or socks or something that you want to like change your gear out.
Batteries, headlamps, like
so you can
all
do
sorts of stuff.
All of that in drop bags, and that was also happening day of check-in. So we had kind of organized some stuff to like leave.
Yep, and the drop bags get super difficult with logistics.
Yeah.
Because one bag goes to a second one, another one goes to another one. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit.
It's a lot. So we finished check-in, and then we basically panic and freak all day.
Yep. Try to figure out how to get. We knew the sleep stations that we ideally thought we would like to see. Grandpa and Marilyn in the Jeep, that we could sleep in the bed or go to like full clothes change, full like, or at least see someone and which is a big deal, after being out there.
Mentally.
Yeah. So we all day try to figure out how to figure out the directions to where they're going.
Because it's like so remote.
Yeah.
Nothing out there, no cell service for them to follow a map.
No.
On their phone.
Right.
We can't text them.
Right. Yeah. So we step off. What you're saying about the pack is like, it's not that we took too much. It's just we had been training with a pack.
Like a hiking backpack almost.
Yeah. We didn't really know like what style of backpack was popular for this type of event.
Yes. And we didn't really know like how many things were going to be at the aid stations.
Right. So you don't really know how much food to take. You can know how much water, because there's also minimums.
Yes.
So there's a mandatory gear list of all things you have to have on you at all times for safety.
Yeah.
Right. We also didn't know at this point, we had no experience with gear. So we put all those things in there, but the style or the thickness or the weight or the big, however big they were, like our bags end up being stuffed and heavy. Heavy. Yeah. Because the better gear you have, like, well, the better,
the lighter it is.
More expensive stuff is lighter, and like, what do you really need? What style of things do you need? How many socks do you take with you? Like, we didn't know any of that stuff.
And like, just as like a base too, it's like you have to be able to carry 3 liters of water, and 3 liters of water weighs
8 pounds.
Yeah,
at least by itself.
Already 8 pounds in your bag.
Right.
Plus extra socks, a puffy, a hooded thing. You have to have a hat.
Yep.
You have to have at least food, and then 500 extra calories of food. I mean, this stuff like.
Yep. You have to have a headlamp.
You have to have extra batteries.
You have to have pants. Like so we put our packs together, which we had gone through a couple initial runs, but then the day before, you just don't know. So you kind of put a little more of this, maybe a little more of that, because you don't really know. And we put these packs on, and they're like 19, 20 pounds. I mean, it's like, they're heavy. 22 pounds maybe, fully loaded up with all the stuff and extra food, and all of our nervous things and extra tape and medical and heavy.
I'm sure I had extra earrings and a headband in mine.
Immediately you're like, we did not train heavy enough.
No.
We were training, but we were training like 10, 15 pound packs.
Yep.
And we would go, this is not right. This is too much.
So heavy.
And so the morning of, it's wild. It's middle of the morning. It's 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever it is.
Completely dark.
Completely dark. And there's probably a couple hundred-ish, I think 250, 200.
Yeah, I think about 250
people start the race. Yeah. They have a really fun, like, what's the saying? Like,
it's like
you have to repeat.
repeat after me.
It's
like
basically boils down to like, I made the decision by myself. I'm responsible for myself. You have to repeat, like, if I get lost. If I get lost.
If I don't know.
If I something break a bone.
Something, yeah. If I fall down.
If I fall down. If I die.
It's
all my own damn fault.
It's my own damn fault. And everyone like slowly is repeating this.
Yeah.
And then they go into just this really like big 10-second countdown.
Yeah, that's it. And then they just go.
And then we went.
And we instantly knew we were out of our depth. Because we were like, all right, we knew that we could make some shuffling happen when we needed to. We had some experience at ultra distances that we could usually walk 10, 12, 15 miles, and then we would get tired of walking.
And we would shuffle.
And we would shuffle, or we would do something at a different cadence just for a different like feel. And we're like, okay, cool. Let's just like, we know we can walk a marathon.
Yeah.
Like, let's not come out of the gate too hot, because we were reading things about coming out of the gate too hot, but our reference was different than what that world's reference is.
Yes.
Coming out of the gate too hot means like running. Like running.
Yeah.
So as soon as we get going, we already knew we were in the back of the pack. We did not have any expectations.
Back of the pack.
At all.
That's another like ultra like saying, mid pack, back of the pack,
Right.
We were back of the pack.
Yeah, for sure. And it's maybe we're a mile in, and
we're last.
95% of people are ahead of us.
Yeah.
And we're like, and they're only walking. No one's even running yet. And we're like, holy crap, like, we're walking too slow.
Booking it.
We didn't even think about like a pace 2 walk.
Yeah.
And so we never trained like a fast walk. We just walked.
Yeah.
Right? And they get going, and we're like, oh man, this is going to be.
What do we do?
This is going to be interesting. So we kind of pick up our pace a little bit, which is like, it's the race, it's the course. You can kind of see people ahead of you by a mile or two.
Yeah.
Every 17 miles, there's an aid station, so you get a little more energy there.
Yeah, and we found these two guys at one point, and they were like, "Oh, we know somebody that did this race." They said, "Don't run at all until you hit 50 miles.
Right.
Like, don't run."
Right. Because they were saying, like, technically, if you can drink water and eat food, walking is all in your head.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real muscular demand.
Yes.
From like tiredness from like running to walking.
Yeah. And they were probably both 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And they had this very like beautiful, elegant stride. And they were
very
just
intentional, like, moving.
Flowing.
And we could not step one-to-one with them.
We were like, let's just fall behind them and keep this pace, because it looks so nice.
Yeah. No.
We couldn't do it.
So that was mistake 1.
Yeah. We tried to do that with a couple people.
Yeah.
We would like get up next to them and be like, "Oh, this is a nice pace," and then it just wasn't our pace.
It wasn't our pace.
We had been practicing
at all. No. And so it's rocks, it's dirt, it's like this year it's raining.
It rained like hard.
We had rain gear on for, I don't know,
8 hours?
9 hours probably.
And it was like, I mean, you're out there in the desert, so it's red mud that you're like sliding through, and it's just clumped on your shoes. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is miles. Probably that was rain started right after that 17.
17 to about 50?
Yeah, 17 to 50 probably had rain. And this is technical. This is like rocks. This is slick rock. This is muddy trails. This is crossing creeks. And this is 17 to 50. Yeah. And we're like, oh man. And we're on pace to not worry about cutoff times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're like, okay, we just keep doing this and we'll be all right.
But there might have been like 4 people behind us.
Maybe. Maybe. So we're 245th or something.
Which, not that that matters, but it does have like a different pressure on you. Like you feel this like panicky, like, oh no, I'm going to get like left.
Because you know that means you're also on the cusp of cutoff times.
You're on the cusp of cutoff times, yeah.
Because you're like, man, if there's someone behind me, or if I'm the last one, that also means that the cutoff times are right behind me.
Yes.
Yeah. Which we got to our big first gigantic mark at mile 70. That's the first sleep station.
Yes.
Right. We get there. We're on track. I don't think we're that far behind. We're a little slower than we thought, but nothing crazy from our initial kind of math.
There was still only like... There was a couple of people that had been at that aid station sleeping, but there weren't that many people coming in behind us.
No, we were still very, very, very much at the back. I think there might have been like one or two people behind us.
Yeah, but we get there. Marilyn was like waving, like hooping and hollering. There might have been some tears from her.
For sure.
When we rolled in there.
Yeah, yeah. And we'd been moving.
Which was so much fun.
So that would have been 27 hours.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, about 27 hours.
So we'd gone all day. We'd gone through the night. The sun had come up again,
which was beautiful out there.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, the course is
it's really
stupid
cool.
pretty.
But like,
everywhere is stupid pretty.
You're out there with nothing.
Yeah, so we go all the way through the night with the headlamps.
Yeah.
No sleep. Get to that first aid station at 70, and my knee had started giving me problems. Your knee was fine.
But about mile 50, I think.
Yeah, it was
58 or so.
It was earlier. It was up there. It just didn't feel quite right. It wasn't like hurting, but I was like, man, something's a little funky with it. Like I can't tell what it is.
Yeah. We take a nap.
We take a nap at mile 70.
Eat some burgers.
And the knee was like, when we got to 70, my knee was not happy.
Yeah.
So I went to medical, and they were like, did a little bit of massage, and there's nothing really, we couldn't really tell what's going on, but the quad was like super tight already.
Yeah.
Like a steel band on that quad.
And I feel bad for saying this, but at mile 70, that the people there running the aid stations are like angels.
Right.
They're the sweetest ever.
Yes.
And they're like, what can I do for you? And Sean had like some blisters on his feet, and he's next to me, and
Feet
they're
were
like
jacked up.
popping his blisters or like taping them, and the lady is like, I'm like changing my socks, and she was like, oh, can I take a picture of your feet? They still look so good. And like Sean's in so much pain next to me.
Yeah.
But they were really sweet. They were so sweet.
Yeah. Aid station people are the nicest people. And most they're aid stations, that's another like impossible thing to try to explain.
We should do a whole podcast on that. Okay. So your quad's already tight.
Quad's super tight. We're feeling all right.
I mean, I'm like hyped on life.
Yeah, you're obviously feeling better than me. Typical.
Way better.
Normal.
I'm not having any knee pain. I'm just tired.
Yep, tired. But overall, like energy from there's like different levels of energy when you get into ultra multiple day stuff. There's like, oh, I've got tons of energy, and then there's like I'm grinding energy, but then there's like I'm gonna fall asleep walking energy.
Yes.
That's basically like the three kind of like lights you have, I guess, three zones that you're kind of like in, which you also kind of modulate between all three over and over and over and over again the entire time.
Yeah.
So we're still in the middle one.
Yes.
We're kind of in like that, all right, like not feeling 100%, but I feel okay.
Yeah.
Take a really good nap. And then we get to stepping off, and my knee is... Now it's the opposite knee. The one that wasn't hurting starts hurting like really, really bad. Probably 10 miles later. We're mile 78, 80.
Yeah, maybe even a little before then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bad that he's like using his trekking poles to like
crutch
swing through.
Yeah, my gait's gone. Like I have no more speed. Like I am like well below like doable like finishing pace.
Yeah.
Like I was like, there's something's.
I mean, I think we had like a 25-minute mile a couple of times.
It was pretty bad.
I mean, yeah, you were in.
And up to that, we had been at a good, consistent like 20-minute walk.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's a hike.
Basically.
For sure. Yeah.
almost the entire time, more or less.
Yeah.
And then my pace just like plummets.
Yeah.
Plummets. And my knee is killing me. And so we have to, well, this is the thing about ultras and Moab 240 is we left 70, our next check-in aid station, which was not a cruise station, but was a full aid station.
So that means Marilyn and Grandpa couldn't be there.
Right. No one could be there.
Is 87.
87. So you step off from 180. When you step off, your only choice is like you can go 2 or 3 miles down the road and decide I quit, but you have to go back to 2 or 3 miles, or you have to just go to the next aid station.
Yeah.
Like there's no options.
Yeah.
So we push all the way. So I get that 17 done, and the last half of that 17 took forever.
Literally forever.
It took forever because I was basically limping in off of I was swinging my legs through the trekking poles in the sand.
It was terrible.
To get to the aid station.
Terrible.
We make it to the aid station. We're okay on cutoff time.
Yeah, we have plenty of time.
We have plenty of time on our cutoff.
Like 3 hours.
We're still ahead of schedule. We're behind schedule, but we're ahead of like the race course cutoff schedule.
Yeah. So Sean's like, we're just gonna take a nap and we'll see if my knee. I mean, when we sat down and he actually looked at his knee, it was huge.
Yeah, it was twice the size as the other one.
So they had like something cold.
No, it was hot. This guy had a thermos and he had hot water in it. And so the thermos was like really warm.
Yeah, so you were like rubbing it on
I was
your leg.
rolling out my leg, which you can find this on the Moab 240 Destination Races reel from 21. Yeah. I'm in there grinding, wincing away as I'm trying to roll out this quad muscle with this boiling thermos to get some heat and some movement on my thigh to decrease that tension. Because I kind of knew at this point the knee was swelling, but I could tell the quad was super tight. And I was like, well, I just need to get the tension out of this quad so my knee has less pressure. Doing all the math, whatever, exercise stuff, body awareness. And we're like, well, maybe I can just like get it another really good rest like I did at 70. It'll calm down after some like good massage and some like a power nap, and then we can keep stepping. Yeah. And
take a power nap.
We try to. It's the middle of the desert. It's like 50-mile-an-hour winds in a tent that's flapping and loud. You can't sleep. You can't get comfortable. You're
laying
on
in cots.
I mean, it's just nuts.
Like so loud.
Right.
It's,
so
it really
can't really sleep.
No.
And the knee, now it's getting to a point to where it doesn't matter what I do. It's like straight, legs bent, legs elevated, nothing. Just on fire.
And it was huge. I mean, it was
huge. And it's like someone's driving a knife into my knee.
Yeah. So at this point, we have about an hour until like it's actually the cut off that you can't step off from this aid station.
Yeah.
But Sean's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
As he should be. Should we end this now?
No, keep going.
Because his knee, like you're not. Why would you even try to?
Had to call it.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't the end of my. This is the end of my race.
But you have this like GPS tracker on. So if anyone is doing the race that you can follow them the whole time on their phone, but it also gives the race like they know where you're at all times because you're really out in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah, it's a big safety thing.
If you're having problems, So they come in to cut Sean's GPS off. And I'm like, yeah, cut mine off too. Like, I'm not going. And they're like, well, you look fine. Why aren't you going to go? And I was like, no, that's not the plan. We signed up together. I'm not going. And it's about to get dark. It's like 7 p.m., 6 p.m. Anyways.
So we have, but we're also, so we haven't slept. But maybe a power nap. We didn't like sleep anywhere.
So we're like hour 30-ish of no sleep.
Yep. Emotionally, the emotions are nuts in these events.
Yeah, but I'm like, no, I'm not going.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And they just kept like.
But I wanted it. Right. So now we're arguing.
Yes, because Sean wants me to go too.
Because I know that she's got plenty of energy left, plenty of juice left. She's got plenty of legs, plenty of feet. Like, everything's tracking that she can still keep going.
But up until this point, I didn't know how to read the map that we were following. I wasn't doing any of that. You were doing it. I was just there.
Yeah.
I wasn't like tracking anything myself.
Yep.
And hiking through the night by myself. No.
Right.
In the middle of nowhere. No.
Right.
Was not
Right.
going to.
Yeah. Because there was a couple moments leaving. Obviously, you have like hours and hours and hours of conversations, but there was a couple times that we were like, ooh, the knee, before 70 or at 70, and we're like, well, it'd be really cool to hit the 100-mile mark.
Yes.
That'd be a big like milestone that we've never done before.
Yeah.
And even before getting there, we're like, man, if we make it to halfway mark, that would be really exciting.
Yeah.
Outside of just finishing the course, like,
Yeah.
man, if we could do 120, that'd be a really awesome accomplishment for year one.
Yeah. Once we realized like how big the race was and how hard it was,
Yeah.
it kind of
Right.
like went from.
Yeah. So we're in this tent. It's
Now we're getting upset.
tent/fire campground, a little area with the volunteers and
Yeah.
couple other people that were resting or about to step off again.
Yeah.
And trying to convince her to keep going, but just trying to convince her to keep going to hit her 100. I was like, you can hit 100. You can make a judgment call at 100 whether or not you want to keep going, but I think it'd be really important to like hit the 100 and kind of make that little like checklist, like that check mark, like, yep, did 100.
Yeah.
That's a big deal for the endurance world to hit 100 miles.
Yeah.
And you're not having it.
Not having
Stubborn
it.
as usual.
I wasn't
Lots of
about to
arguing.
leave him and go out
Right.
because he's still in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
I mean, they were going to take him back somewhere, but still.
Yeah, still way in the middle of nowhere.
So
and then
this guy comes in.
this guy comes into the tent when we're talking, and I'm a mess. Like I can't keep my emotions in check at all, right? And like begging her to leave.
Yeah.
And
Definitely some tears.
definitely crying for sure. And this guy comes in, and he goes into about history of the race course.
Yeah.
And he was like, 240 was after, which was weird. We don't even know the guy's. I can't remember his name.
It was his brother.
Yeah, it's his brother, but he didn't really like say that at first.
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
the reason that Candace built the race was around this guy who was an ultra endurance guy who had died early in life. And he's the one who had started doing pre-planning for this race.
Yeah.
He'd always thought it'd be the coolest thing, do this giant loop around Moab.
Yep.
And he went into this big, long spiel about his brother and about opportunity and being out here.
Yeah.
And they have a quote that's in the middle of suffering that's, we're the lucky ones. That was a quote that his brother said all the time.
If you can keep going, like,
right.
you're the lucky one.
You're the lucky ones.
Yeah.
And so then like I'm bawling in front of this guy, right? He's
Sean's
crying.
bawling, he's crying.
Right? The guy who's talking to us is crying, and he's giving us big hugs.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm
wild.
staring at them
it's
like
middle of the night.
they're crazy because I still don't want to go by myself at night.
Yeah.
But he was like, okay, so he can't go out because of his knee.
Yep.
But you're the lucky one tonight.
Yep.
There's these two girls.
Mm-hmm.
The sweeper, which is, there were two girls that were sweeping the course.
Uh-huh.
Which is like, they follow behind everybody.
Yep.
To pick up the flags.
Yep.
And if anyone like is a straggler, whatever.
Behind pace or whatever.
Yeah.
And these people are fresher. They're usually not doing the entire course. They're doing sections of it.
Yeah. Then they'll like kind of wait on them and walk them
Yep.
to the next aid station,
Yep.
especially
Yep.
if they're behind cutoff.
Right. And there's usually a medical reason why at that point.
Yeah. So there was a girl and her pacer
Mm-hmm.
that were stepping off, and basically the sweepers were going to be right behind us because we were like 30 minutes from cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
So there I go.
There she goes with,
I
with
step
these
off,
strangers.
and I'm like kind of losing my mind at this point
Mm-hmm.
because I hadn't had any sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Big emotions with not going with you.
Right.
For sure, that was like the hardest.
Yep.
One, like feeling guilty
Mm-hmm.
that I was going because you weren't there, and then two,
Right.
like absolutely terrified.
Right. Right. Well, I'm having the exact same feeling of guilty because I was the one like
Right.
holding us back from getting
Yeah.
farther.
Yeah. And then also terrified because my mom was going to find out that we didn't stick together.
Yeah, because the dot,
During the
my
race?
dot dropped off the race course, and now she's Dot's solo.
Yeah.
But you could see your dot was close to other dots,
Yeah.
and like on the little like when you look on the app, on the race course app.
Yeah.
So you push out, hit the 100, But I think you guys came in at cutoff time.
We came in like 3 minutes after cutoff time.
Yeah, and that actually, the girl with the pacer, she actually slowed you guys down quite a bit. She had an ankle issue.
She had a huge ankle issue.
And so she was like really slow. Sweepers catch you guys.
Yes.
All 5 of you come into the aid station at the same time.
Yes, and that sweeper ended up being Jessica.
Yeah, we'll talk about later.
Yeah, who we'll get into later, but it was really random because when we got to mile 70, this girl like pulls up in a van and she's like, "Are you guys that couple from Oklahoma?" And we were like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And she was like, "I'm from Oklahoma." And we were like, "Oh, cool." And then she just happened to be the sweeper. So
right. Yeah.
Got to know her.
Yeah. Connecting the dots there is we had a mutual friend who said, "Hey, you should reach out to Jessica and ask her some questions about 240. She's been out there before."
Yeah.
So we had just had like DM conversations on socials with this girl.
Yes.
Who was this girl in a van at mile 70.
Yeah.
Randomly, who was like, "You're the couple I've been talking to in like on social."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just nuts.
Nuts.
So I get to the cutoff, 3 minutes past, which means I can't go, which I wasn't going to anyway. I mean, I had hallucinated that whole 87 through mile 103 anyways.
Right.
Completely out of my mind. So all sorts of stuff.
Definitely couldn't have gone on solo. If you would have had someone else, if you would have had another pacer out there, physically, you could have kept going.
Probably.
Yeah.
But like mentally, I didn't know where.
Right.
You know.
No. So I was at 87.
You were at 87. They took you back to Grandpa.
I catch a ride with one of the volunteers randomly. Got lucky. So they drive me hour and a half, almost 2 hours back into Moab.
Because we're 87 miles from the start.
So I get to the camper, wake Grandpa and Marilyn up. It's like 2 a.m, right? I get there and Grandpa's like, "You need to call Danielle's mom. She's freaking out," because she could see, and she's like,
Sean's dot wasn't on the map, but my dot was.
And she's like, he was like, you gotta talk to her like now. Like you need to call her.
She
now.
Was so angry.
She was pissed.
She was pissed
because she thought I left you out there.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Which is it's complicated to like understand that.
Yes.
But she was like, that wasn't the plan. You guys are supposed to stay together. And
yeah.
So 2 a.m, I'm on the phone with her and I haven't slept yet. I'm still in all of my gear, knees huge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I knew that you were going to get to 100
about 5 a.m. or so.
But I didn't know when that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were waiting on a phone call or we didn't know if you were going to have service or not.
Yeah.
So we didn't know how we were going to know when you got to the 100 to know when Grandpa and I were to go back out and get you.
Yeah.
The other hour.
You could see my dot, but you couldn't really know how long it would take for 5 more miles or 10 more miles.
Right. And so I'm basically in and out of sleep, sleeping in a recliner with all my stuff on, getting onto the website to look at where the dot was, to check times, to see when and how you got there and get updates. Yeah. And then somehow they communicated somehow
there was a radio.
They had because there was no cell service, so that she couldn't just call and say, "Hey, come get me."
Yeah, because I walk up to this aid station. This is how out of it I was. One, I couldn't find any food while we were walking. And the next day I found 2 peanut butter sandwiches in my front pocket. Could not find any food. But I get up to this aid station and they're like, we got to take your tracker off because you guys aren't going to step off. And I was like, okay, I need you to call my husband, Sean, and Grandpa in the big red Jeep to come and get me. Yeah. They were like, this girl could just keep saying big red Jeep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come get me.
Yeah. And so they had to, so the aid station had a radio back to HQ. HQ then had to look up our information and get my cell phone number
to call you.
Or I think it was even Grandpa's cell phone, emergency contact, to call.
Yeah.
And then they called us to tell us that you were ready to get picked up but you weren't at one of the crewable stations.
Yeah.
So you were at one of the mid stations that was happened to be 4-wheel drive access only, and it was no access. It was only like race course people could be at that area, but they're like, if you have a vehicle you're confident with,
go get her.
You can go get her. She's at blank and blank. And they tried to give us like directions. Again, no tech, no Google, no maps, nothing. And they're like, yeah, when you go down the road blank and blank 46, it'll be like, take the third dirt road after you see the something, some landmark. Yeah. It's like really confusing. So we drive all the way out to the 120 aid station, try to talk to someone there. We'd have no service. We finally get a hold. We keep driving around until we get cell service. We stop and get cell service, call HQ back. And I'm like, this is what we see in front of us. You need to give us like super detailed turn-by-turn directions how to get to this aid station. And so we write it all down. I haven't slept, right? And so then we drive out and we finally get to you. And it's... at this time, what is it, 9 a.m. the next day?
I mean, this part was actually kind of fun because I finished, it was in the dark. And, like, since we were the last people on the course, the aid station was just, like, making us anything that they had left over. So it was a bunch of, like, cups of mashed potatoes and, like...
Right, just hanging out for breakfast at the fire, freezing because it's cold.
It was freezing, but I was with, like, 6 other people who also DNF'd at that aid station. So we're all just, like... dirty and on and off sleeping and your legs are getting stiff and the sun's coming up and somebody brings us chocolate and but I do remember right when Sean and Grandpa came and got me and I got in the Jeep and I was like, I'm kind of sad it's over. It's over. Then we had no idea what to do. We didn't have any like rooms, we didn't have any plans, we didn't have we were supposed to be on the course for 2 more days.
We thought at least 2 more. We would have been in the middle of our second plus 2 more days. 2 of 4 days we were supposed to be out there. I
had to cut Sean's gaiters off, which gaiters are like
the little dust covers for your shoes basically.
Because his feet were so swollen.
My feet, everything was so swollen from lots of who knows what reasons, hydration and salt and overwork and lots of things. The knee is still completely just like won't, and now the knee's basically locked up. It won't bend anymore. It's
weird because I've talked to some people before about like signing up for a race and them not wanting to do it in case they like failed, but like us DNFing was still like some of my favorite experiences because even after like finding a hotel and like I don't know, just like the unexpected stuff and
it was definitely
it was just an experience.
Yeah, it was definitely we also didn't, I mean, we kind of had failure as an expectation starting off because we knew like, well, we know the math shakes out. If everything goes the right way, we could finish this thing. So we knew that it was like potential, but then we also knew, I mean, both of us, when we got past mile 51 at whatever it was, 2 a.m. in the morning or something crazy, we were like, cool, like this is the longest distance we've ever gone.
It's a PR.
This is a personal best. And so now we know every mile after this is just the new version of our personal best of ever doing something in a single, effort, bout, endurance type of anything. So everything after that was just extra credit. Up into the 78. And then looking back, there's lots of you learn so many things. But the main reason that my knee got so jacked up was because we started trying to move on other people's paces, which changed my gait, which changed my hip flexor, which changed my knee. All the actions of that we went completely different that day.
Which was kind of my fault because I was just wanting to go faster.
It was hard not to.
Because you feel panicked. You're like, I'm at the back. I got to go. Right.
It's pretty difficult to not want. It's, to see people passing you over and over and over again, it's like, oh geez, we're gonna like, there's gotta be a reason they're moving faster. Like we should be doing that too.
But learned so much, and definitely was like, I mean, it was my first time hallucinating like that for sure.
Yeah, I've never had any of those feelings.
Hallucinating feelings?
My body just doesn't.
I can hallucinate, I guess, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get back and finally get a shower, and then go get some real food, and then happen to find a hotel, and then we just hung out in Moab for a couple days.
Grandpa Marilyn went
Marilyn
jeeping
and puppies. Went and played on some rocks and
limped around
for a while. Yeah.
Bought some Moab sweatshirts.
Yeah.
Came back home.
And then I think that next night we went to dinner, just you and I, and we were waiting in line to eat dinner, and the two girls who were the sweepers that saw you at mile 80,
basically walked with me to 103.
Into 103, were there, and they had gotten a table, and so they invited us to sit down with them, and so we had dinner with those two sweepers.
Yeah.
That 2 nights later, that was the Jessica girl.
Yeah.
From Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That we had dinner with.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the conclusion of 240 in October of 2021. And then that was an instant, like, for you.
It was an instant for me. Like, I kind of like this world.
Right.
It's a different world.
Way different.
The people are different. If you've ever done a road marathon, this is like so different.
So different.
The aid stations, the whole like going through the night and continuing the next day is different.
Yep.
Like everything.
Yep. It's just,
I don't even know how to explain it.
Right. It's just super dirty. It's just like it's everything, the unpolished version of what people think the endurance running world is.
Yeah.
And like ultras, yes, now we've gone and done more, and yes, there's definitely running.
Yes.
Right? But really it's like a finishing world.
Yes.
It's not I'm not a runner, so I do ultras. It's like I'm a finisher, so I do ultras.
Yeah.
Because it's completely normal we should back a little. I would say it's completely normal in the trail running community.
Yes.
That pace is like the last thing anyone ever talks about.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be the top like 7 people who are like trying to hit a certain mileage, but
90% of the people are just out there because they want to be out there.
Yeah. And it's also like 48,000 feet of elevation gain. Like a lot of it isn't even that runnable.
No,
like
it's super technical, lots and lots of up, lots and lots of down. Majority of it is hiking. It's not like running. So when people say, oh, you ran 240 miles, you're like, well, I finished 240 miles. It's an endurance. What do you call it? An adventure endurance?
It's called an
endurance. How does they adventure?
Moab 240.
What do they call it? They call it adventure racing. I think they call it adventure racing. I think is that what the word they use? They don't really use the word running much in the language. They kind of call it that adventure racing is kind of like the words they use because it's so typical that, the top 10% do run the entire time, and the middle of the pack people run half the time, kind of things. But it's just completely different, and it's a different energy around one, like pacing and like running for PRs is not normal. You don't hear that a lot. And then the general attitude of like just stoked to start, just stoked to be in it. And like the amount of times, like every single person out there probably has a DNF in their everyone has failed a course at some point in their little journey.
It's because they're all going to they're like pushing the limit,
Right.
It's not saying that if you sign up for a half marathon that you're going to finish the half marathon, but there's so many unknowns that happen after that 26 mile mark that just
Right. The variables
just
are
don't know.
nuts. The
Yeah.
nuances are nuts. The logistics are nuts.
Yeah.
Like the unknowns are
Yeah.
crazy.
So you really just sign up to try
Yeah.
and just
Yeah. You're
I
just
mean-
you're just in it just to roll with the punches type
Yeah.
of like world. It's just way different.
yeah.
It's way different.
It's way different.
You know, like non-typical food. You know, you go to aid stations and everyone's cooking up like burgers and quesadillas.
Yes.
It's like a normal thing to see at
Yes.
aid stations.
We had a egg and mashed potato sandwich, and I can still taste it to this day, and it was really good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Sandwich.
Yeah. Delicious.
spot.
Delicious. And so we finish up, we get back home,
Yes.
right? And then it's like, you're like, no, we're going to like, I want to do this.
Yes.
Like, I want to finish.
Yeah.
And I knew that, and I was,
We should shut it down.
you think?
Yeah, it's
I
over
mean-
an hour.
Does that matter? People are going to listen to Joe Rogan for 3 hours?
3 hours. We're gonna go into Moab 2022.
Maybe we don't. Maybe we just need to like connect the dots right now.
Okay.
Okay, so it's October 21.
I mean, yes.
We get
and-
back, we finish opening up the studio.
Yeah, we finished opening up the studio.
I think we had our first official day in the studio November 1
It was like October 27th.
or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And so that was not even 10 days,
Yeah.
10, 11 days after 240. We get back
Open up
and
the studio.
we're like building, painting, moving the studio that
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah. All the things.
And then we're also 21. When does the house happen?
Oh, December of 2021.
Right. So
Well, November. I
Right.
guess we closed.
we
like,
close on the
Thanksgiving.
house.
December of 2021.
Yeah, December of like, so the next month.
Yeah.
During that time, we're recovering,
Yeah.
not doing much of anything. We know that now it's a lottery for the 2022
Yes.
Moab 240.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not like, I'm like, nope, I don't have any kind of idea. And I was still recovering. Knee was still hurting. Feet were
Yeah.
still jacked up.
Yeah.
Like I was not in a place at all
Yeah.
to do any kind of real training.
Yeah.
And I knew for a fact that I was like not going to be able to, and don't care to. I just didn't. I got to the 87. I was like, that's really cool. And I don't have a desire to do it again.
Yeah. I had so much fun out there, and I could not stop thinking about it.
Right.
I wanted to finish so bad.
Yeah. So we move
We moved the studio.
the studio, move into the house.
Yes.
January 1 comes around and we're like deep into both places. A lot's going on.
I put my name in the lottery, so they
Right.
switched it this time.
Right. And so they're like, all right, put your name in the lottery.
Yes.
And then I think that the very best thing we can do to make you the most successful, knowing now, because now we like get a feel for what crews are, what pacing is,
Yeah.
what pacers are. Like
Mhm.
we're like, all right, we kind of get a really temperature of what this means
Mhm.
and what it takes to finish something like this.
Yeah.
And so January,
It's like late January.
Yeah.
I get the email.
get the email, lottery, you're in.
Congratulations.
So then
Then the training begins.
the training begins. But now we know.
Now I have like a decent
Here we
base
go. So
because I
now
had
we're
done 100
2022. We're like, all right, we've got some information, we've got some data. I've got data for program design and for like
Mhm.
expectations. And like,
Mhm.
okay, now I know kind of where my minimums are, how to like ebb and flow. And it was like, all right, let's figure this out. What do we need to do to make this happen?
Yeah.
Okay. So to be continued into second episode.
To be.
Well, I guess
do you
not
want
a
to
sec-
keep talking
No.
about it? Okay.
No, it's been,
Yeah.
I know you're just tired of sitting here.
I gotta stand. Yeah. So
So
to
we'll do
be
it.
to be continued.
To be
for
continued, we'll talk about
2022 of
22's
Moab.
Moab 240. Is there anything else about Moab 240 in general?
2021?
Like, I guess to like wrap up this. Now there's lots and lots of good stuff online. You can find.
Yeah.
There's lots of good YouTube videos. Probably even some Instagram-y stuff now. None of that stuff was there before.
No.
So there's lots of really good stuff to go like visually watch.
Yeah.
You can also just go creep on the socials and see pictures. You can scroll down and look up Moab 240. I think you just look up the hashtag Moab 240 on Instagram, and you're going to see a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just cool. It's cool. Joe Rogan had David Goggins, Courtney DeWalter, Cameron Haynes that all did Moab 240.
Right.
So those are kind of fun to listen to. But if you've ever read David Goggins' books, he talks about him in both of them.
Yep.
Can't Hurt Me, and then I can't remember the...
Never Let Go, or Never something, whatever the other one was. I can't remember what it is.
But
So next episode we'll go into everything about the 2022 Moab 240. So when you're listening to this or watching it, if you have any comments that you want us, any questions about 240, if you have anything like, oh, cool, what about blank and blank, or what about blank and blank, like, drop them in the comments.
Yes.
Go find a Moab 240 post, or you'll post like a picture of us for this one on Instagram.
Yeah.
Comment below. Hey, what about blank and blank? That way we know for sure. We'll make sure we get it wrapped up into that second Moab 240 episode.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any Moab questions?
Any and all Moab ultra endurance world things. We are still not we're not really into that world.
No, but now we've done like multi-day hikes and stuff.
Yeah,
like
we've done more since then.
Stuff.
Right. We're not really like runners, but
two Moab races. Basically pros.
Yeah, basically.
I'm kidding.
Basically, sort of things. And we still really don't do that much running.
No.
Not really. I've done more running now than I ever have before. And that's one day every 2 weeks.
One day every 2 weeks, running 3 to 4 miles.
I guess part of that, part of the non-endurance part about us doing these things is that we've always wanted to test how strong we are.
Oh, yeah.
That was do the canyon, or do the 50K in the canyon, or go walk a marathon, shuffle. It's how strong are we with no endurance training to finish these things?
Right.
How can we really push ourselves, and let's just see where we're at.
Just shut your brain off. Yeah.
Yeah, just to see how stubborn we can be and push.
Stubborn.
Because we're also visually quite a bit different than the majority of people at these events.
Yes.
We both have more muscle mass on us than is really needed for our frames. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For the average, when you think of an endurance athlete.
Yeah.
Anyways, because we're not really endurance athletes. We're strength athletes.
Yes.
Who happen to endurance things.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll get off a tangent. So, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, put a comment below. Go to Danny_Prevail. Make a comment. Tell us what you liked about it.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, please let us know before we do the other one. And we'll try to get that done ASAP.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Share with all your friends.
Okay, bye.